Welcome back to the Local Sports Break. I'm joined here at the round table with Mr. Brad Bobo from Arkansas State University, Mike McKinney from the Paragould Daily Press, and Mr. David Greene from nearsports.com. Here to talk a little football with us. We'll start in with the big game last Friday, Week 10 battle between Paragould and Greene County Tech. Greene County Tech came out of there with a 28-7 victory. Thought we might just talk about some of the key plays in that game and the outcome and what it means. Brad, we'll start with you.
I would think, not getting to see as much as probably either one of these other guys, is that even though the numbers in total aren't there for Tech, I think they were in experience in key spots and in the skill positions. And,
right.
And Jeffrey Blake is a good enough player to win you some football games. And more than anything, I would think that was the case in probably both Tech Paragould games, just a little more experience for Tech in some of the key spots on the field.
Mm-hmm. They had a really excellent senior core, like you mentioned, Blake, and they just did an excellent job in that game and pretty well dominated the second half, I think. It was 14-7 at halftime, and Paragould had a couple of chances and couldn't finish the drive, and Tech went down and scored.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something we talked about earlier. It's been that way almost all year for Paragould. They have a pretty decent first half.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Can't translate that over into the second half. They did that against Batesville.
Mm-hmm.
They had a pretty good first one or two drives against Wynne, and then it happened to them after those first couple of drives. They've been a first half team all year long.
Well, it was a good game last Friday, as it always is with that matchup. Greene County Tech did finish the season 4-6, and they were just a few plays away from being 6-4, or even 7-3 for that matter. How do you think this year's success will translate into next year as the Tech football team moves into next year? What do you think they're looking forward to and going to see next year on the gridiron?
I hope it translates, and I'm sure Mark Ford and the staff will be the same thing in the numbers. I mean, hopefully if some of the other kids in the school can see what's going on and they do have a chance to be successful, get a few more of them out there. I mean, I think the Tech season really came down to two plays. The fourth down conversion attempt against Blytheville when they came up short, and Blytheville drove down and scored in the last minute. And then to me, I think the last play of the first half against Nettleton when it's 14-7, Nettleton's on its own 2-yard line and trying to run the clock out, and Derek Lawson got loose for a touchdown that took that game from 14-7 to 21-7. I mean, you're 2 plays away that those 2 wins get you in the playoffs. So hopefully they'll know that they were that close, and that can translate into some good things going down the road.
It always helps finishing the season with a win. That'll help going into off season. Like you said, they have some key losses they'll have to replace, like Blake, David Mitchell, and some more. But their junior high had a very good year. They had a winning record, and that'll help going into the off season, having some junior high players to come up and help them.
Definitely having a more successful team this season than they have the last 2 or 3 in a row will help build the roster for next year, I hope. But losing Blake's a killer. Losing Blake, my goodness, what a player!
Right.
You know, we talked about
skill positions.
Talked about the 2 close conference losses. Don't forget them. I mean, they probably gave a 10-0 Pocahontas team its best game of the season.
Sure.
And we led 13-0 at the half, and so I mean, it's close. And hopefully, if they can plug some of those gaps, which there's some
Looks
big
like
ones to
turning it
fill,
around.
that they can get there.
Well, I know Paragould didn't have the season that they wanted to have. Kind of disappointing over there, but I know there's a lot of things they're going to build on in the offseason. What do you think they're going to carry over and really stress on? I know Tyler Arnold, the quarterback, will be back, and Kelsey Ridley will be back in the backfield. How much do you think that helped them?
It always helps having key performers coming back. Gives you some a good nucleus, some people to look to, some leadership, and that's what they need going in next year. And they had a good, I mentioned Tech's junior high program. Paragould finished second in the conference this year in junior high, and there's some athletes. Hopefully it'll help them coming up into next year.
Well, I'm hoping, and I know Coach Carter hopes this too, that the team can learn how to be a second half football team. Because, I mean, it's been, like I said earlier, it's been the story all year long. The first half, they played decent, well enough to compete with almost anybody. The second half, it's like a different team on the field. I'm hoping they find a way to solve that for next season.
You play in 10th graders in the backfield or one under center. The 5A East is not a very good place for baptism by fire.
It's a beast.
And so I think nothing can help those guys like a year under their belt. And really, I mean, you could very potentially see a role reversal. We just talked about Tech having the edge in the 2 games this year because of having seniors in those spots. Well, now they're not. Now Paragould's going to come in with a backfield that's all been there for a year, and so I mean, these 2 teams are never going to be very far apart, and that's going to be the case again.
That's why they're always great matchups. Speaking of the 5A East, just a few really quick. Were there any big surprises in that conference that y'all saw this year?
Nettleton. Nettleton all the way. Yeah,
Raiders
Nettleton.
sneaking up and going to the
And
playoffs
going to the playoffs as a third seed. They got ahead of Blytheville.
behind Mr. Lawson there.
Exactly.
The no surprise, of course, Wynne, another great year going to the playoffs. Look out, they may win a state championship under Don Campbell again.
Yep.
And
Again.
like it.
And they will not leave Wynne through the playoffs. I mean,
Home field
the
advantage.
road to the Rock is going to go through Wynne as long as they keep winning. But I think, more specifically than Nettleton, I mean, Derek Lawson, I mean, you go out and he put up the numbers he puts up in the non-conference, and you may say, look at, some of the opponents. But,
Right.
I mean, week after week, this is a guy that, I mean, outside of week 10, he went into that game against Wynne where his lowest output was like 135 yards. And he went.
Mr.
He had
Dependable.
he'd set the Nettleton single season rushing record in week 7. I mean, so this kid went out and
Yeah.
proved he was the real deal.
He had a great season. That's
Anybody who saw that coming, I guess, could see those kind of numbers coming. Had better foresight than me. I
But
guess.
it's a good point that when Lawson did play against a really strong defense with the Wynne Yellowjackets, under 100 yards. He had 67 yards on the night, I think it was.
Right.
And he's going to see some strong defenses in the playoffs.
Oh,
No
yeah.
doubt about
That's
it. So.
for sure. Well, I sure do appreciate y'all stopping by. Against Brad Bobo from Arkansas State, Mike McKinney from the Paragould Daily Press, and David Grimm from nearsports.com.
And I hope folks tune in this afternoon on Near Sports Radio. We've got Crowley's Ridge College on Near Sports Radio this afternoon at 2, hosting Brookhaven.
All right. Well, we sure do appreciate you stopping in and talking some football with us also. That's going to do it for this week. So until next week, goodbye.